Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are tackling a ghost that honestly haunts pretty much everyone.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It really doesn't matter if you're trying to get in shape or learn to code, or in the case of our sources today, finally speak fluent English. It's always that same nagging voice in your head that just says, I just don't have the time.
It is the ultimate excuse, isn't it? We somehow convince ourselves that unless we have, I don't know, 3 completely empty hours in a perfectly quiet room with a cup of tea, it's not even worth opening the textbook.
Exactly. And for language learners especially, there's an even bigger myth attached to that. We've pulled together a really fascinating stack of research today. We're looking at transcripts from experts like Pod English, English Unleashed, and English Easy Practice. And they all seem to be shouting the exact same thing.
Yeah, they are.
They're shouting that we have this bizarre idea that to get fluent, you have to just pack your bags, quit your job, and move to London or New York for a year.
Right, the immersion myth, this idea that geography is the only thing that's going to save you.
But looking at these transcripts, I mean, that's just not true, is it?
It's not only untrue, it's actually completely counterproductive. Because if you truly believe you need to move to London to learn, and you obviously can't just move to London, you just give up.
You just don't even try.
Right. The core premise across all this source material is shockingly simple. You don't need a new address. You don't need a new country. You just need what the sources call small, smart steps.
Small, smart steps, which sounds nice, but it also sounds a little bit like a marketing slogan on a cereal box. What does that actually look like on a random Tuesday morning when I'm late for work and I can't find my keys?
It looks like hacking your existing life. The entire goal of this deep dive is to unpack a specific strategy that turns English from a subject you study on the weekends into a lifestyle you live right in the margins of your day.
Okay.
We aren't talking about sitting down for grammar drills. We're talking about changing the way you use your phone, the way you talk to yourself in the shower, and literally even the way you wake up in the morning.
Okay. I'm very intrigued. And I see we have some really heavy hitters in the lineup today. We're going to talk about shadowing, which sounds a little like spycraft, but is apparently a massive linguistic game changer.
Oh, it's huge.
We're going to cover micro habits, and we're going to get into the really messy, nuanced details of daily vocabulary, because apparently waking up and getting up are not the same thing.
They definitely aren't, and mixing them up is a dead giveaway that you're a learner.
All right, let's just get right into it. Let's start with this concept of shadowing, because it popped up in almost every single source we looked at. It really seems to be the darling of language experts right now.
It is. It's basically the foundational technique in modern fluency training.
But I have to be honest, when I first read the definition, it sounded kind of chaotic. Can you break down exactly what this is? Because it sounds like you're just annoying people by repeating everything they say.
Well, ideally, you do this alone so you aren't actually annoying anyone. But you're right, it is intense. Shadowing is a very specific listening and speaking exercise. The sources define it as listening to audio, so a podcast, a video, maybe a news clip, and repeating exactly what you hear.
Okay.
But here is the major catch. You have to do it simultaneously.
Wait, simultaneous, not like listen, pause, repeat.
No pausing.
Ugh.
That is the critical difference. It's like being an echo. You are trying to copy the speaker while they are still speaking, or maybe just a split second behind them.
That feels incredibly difficult. If I'm listening to a sentence I've never even heard before, how can I possibly say it at the exact same time I'm hearing it? I feel like I'd just be tripping over my own tongue.
Oh, you absolutely will trip over your tongue. At first, it feels like a total disaster. But there are rules that make this work, and the sources are very strict about them.
Okay, lay down the law. How do we not fail at this?
Rule number 1, do not stop the audio, no matter what.
Just keep it rolling.
Exactly. Rule number 2, do not translate in your mind. And rule number 3, and this is the one that really breaks people, do not look at a dictionary.
But that goes against literally everything we're taught in school. If I don't know the word, my absolute first instinct is to stop and look it up. Otherwise, aren't I just making nonsense noise?
You are making noise, but it's productive noise. The goal here isn't intellectual understanding right away. It's physical training.
Physical.
Yeah, Varvos's Pod English actually describes it as, quote, gym for your mouth. You are training the muscles of your jaw and your tongue to physically move in the shapes that English requires and at the speed English requires.
So it's less about vocabulary and more about what, like mouth choreography.
That's a great way to put it, exactly. If you only ever read English silently, your mouth never learns the dance. Shadowing forces that physical muscle memory. You're mimicking the music of the language, the intonation, the rhythm, the pauses, not just the dictionary definitions.
And I guess that explains why they say you don't need an hour to do it.
Right. 5 minutes. The sources are very clear on this point. You physically can't shadow for an hour. Your brain would just melt.
Yeah, I'd be exhausted.
But 5 minutes of really intense, simultaneous mimicking, that is what bridges the gap between passive listening and active speaking.
I loved the specific examples they gave in the text to practice with. There were these sentences, I want to speak English fluently, and I listen to English every day.
Very simple sentences.
Super simple. But if you try to say, I want to speak English fluently at the exact native speed of a fast speaker, it's actually a bit of a tongue twister.
It really is. And notice the reaction from the hosts in the source material. They emphasize that it feels really strange at first. You might not understand every single word you're saying.
Which is usually exactly where we panic.
Right. But the expert advice here is to find that liberating. You are freeing yourself from the heavy burden of needing to know what every single word means. You're instead just focusing on, do I sound like the speaker? Is my rhythm correct?
I love that. It takes the pressure off completely. Okay, so that's the physical act of speaking. But what about what's happening inside our heads? Because another big theme in the stack was this idea of thinking in English.
Yes. This is the holy grail for learners, breaking that deeply ingrained habit of translating everything.
I can imagine you see a table, you think of the word for table in your native language, then you have to perform a little mental gymnastics to translate it to the English word table. It's so slow.
It's very slow, and it creates this awkward delay in conversation.
Yeah.
That delay is exactly what makes people feel unconfident.
Right.
So the sources suggest a method to stop this. They say start with the now.
Now.
Yes. Stop trying to form complex philosophical thoughts in your head. Start with short, simple thoughts based on exactly what is happening right in front of you.
Okay.
The source examples were very grounded. Things like, the sky's blue, I am tired, I need coffee, I see a dog.
I need coffee is usually my first thought in any language, to be fair.
It's a pretty universal language.
Yeah.
But the point is, by keeping it that simple, you entirely bypass the translation center of your brain. You connect the object or the feeling directly to the English word.
And then there's the next level of this, which I honestly found hilarious, but also brilliant. The narrating life technique.
Ah, the crazy person technique.
Yes. Literally walking around your house saying out loud, I am making tea now. I am cleaning my room.
It feels incredibly silly at first, but think about it. You are creating a safe space to practice sentence structure. No one is listening.
Yeah.
You can't get embarrassed. You are just reinforcing those neural pathways over and over. I am opening the door. I am putting on my shoes.
It essentially turns your boring daily routine into a personalized language lesson.
And it forces you to realize what words you actually don't know in a practical setting. You might go to the kitchen and say, I am opening the, and suddenly realize you don't know the word for fridge.
Right. And then you go look it up, and because you actually needed it in that specific moment, you're going to remember it.
Exactly. And speaking of vocabulary retention, there was a specific metric mentioned in the English Easy Practice source that I really wanted to highlight. The 3 words rule.
Oh, I saw this. It seems suspiciously low to me.
It does, doesn't it? We have this societal idea that we need to grind through 50 flashcards a day to make progress. But the source suggests you just learn 3 new words every day.
Which sounds like nothing. I feel like I could do that while I'm brushing my teeth.
That's the whole point. It's actually sustainable.
Yeah.
But do the math on it.
I did. That's 90 new words a month. That's over 1,000 words a year.
Exactly. And because you aren't cramming them in a panic, those are likely words that will actually stick because you learn them deliberately. It's like the compound interest of language learning.
Okay. I like the idea of mouth choreography in the 3 words, but let's be real. Shadowing takes active effort. You still have to sit there and do it. What about when we're just kind of existing? The sources promised us some quote-unquote lazy hacks.
They did. And this moves us into the environmental pillar of the research. The sources call this digital immersion.
And the first tip here is easily my personal favorite because it requires absolute 0 effort after you do it once. Changing your phone settings to English.
It's such a shockingly simple move, but the impact is massive because it leverages passive learning. Think about it. How often do you unlock your phone in a given day?
Way too many times. Probably 100.
The sources estimate between 50 to 100 times a day for the average user. So if your interface is in English that is 100 mini lessons, you are forcing your brain to process without ever opening a textbook.
But are you really learning, though, or are you just pressing the buttons for muscle memory?
It's both. And that's the beauty of a hack. You already know where the settings icon is, but now the label phonetically reads settings instead of your native language. You see airplane mode, brightness, privacy, notifications, you see update available or storage full.
Storage full is the nightmare of my life. I see that message constantly.
Right. But because you completely understand the context, you know your phone is out of space. Your brain instantly maps the English words storage full to that concept. You don't need a dictionary to tell you what delete means when you're desperately trying to free up space for a photo. You learn it through sheer necessity and repetition.
It's all context clues.
Precisely. And that is the exact difference between studying a subject and living a lifestyle. You aren't memorizing a list of dry tech vocabulary. You're just using your phone.
Now, what about when we're actually consuming content on that phone? We're all guilty of doom scrolling, but the sources suggest we can somehow doom scroll productively.
Well, maybe not doom scroll, but smart scroll. Instead of watching TikToks or Instagram reels in your native language, you just switch the algorithm. You start interacting with them in English. But here is the actual strategy. Don't just watch it once and swipe away.
What's the protocol then?
Watch that same 20-second video 2 or 3 times. Pause it. Repeat the phrases out loud. Because these are really short, punchy videos. They usually contain very natural, slang-heavy, real-world English.
That makes a lot of sense. It's very bite-sized. Now, there is one technique for the end of the day that made me cringe a little bit, just because I absolutely hate the sound of my own voice, the voice note diary.
Ah, yes, the daily recording.
Please tell us how this works and why I should put myself through the absolute torture of listening to myself speak.
It's incredibly effective for building self-awareness.
Yeah.
The instruction is simple. At the end of the day, record a 1-minute voice message on your phone. Just talk about your day. I had a meeting. I made lunch. I was tired.
Okay, and then?
And then you listen to it.
Ugh. Why do we have to do that?
I know. But here's why it matters so much. When we speak in real time, we're often way too busy thinking about what to say to actually notice how we say it.
That's true.
When you listen back to the recording,
Yeah.
you become your own teacher. You suddenly hear your own pronunciation errors. You hear exactly where you messed up the grammar. You realize, oh, I said I go to work yesterday instead of I went.
So it creates this sort of instant feedback loop.
Precisely. It builds self-correction. But if you really, really can't stand the audio, the sources do offer an alternative, the written diary. Just write 3 simple sentences before bed. Today I went to work. I was very tired. I drank 2 cups of coffee.
I drank 2 cups of coffee seems to be a very recurring theme in these examples.
It's a highly relatable theme for most adults.
It really is. You know, speaking of narrating your day with things like I drank coffee or I went to work, the sources brought up something fascinating about the nuance of these daily routines.
Right.
Once you start narrating, you realize English is kind of tricky with these tiny little distinctions.
It is. The daily routine source material really drilled down into this specifically. There are actions that seem identical but use completely different verbs or mean slightly different things.
The big one that completely blew my mind, or, well, I guess I knew it, but I never consciously thought about it, is the difference between wake up and get up.
Oh, this is a classic trap for learners. In many languages, these are effectively the exact same verb. But in English, they are 2 totally distinct chronological events.
So for everyone listening who thinks they are the exact same thing, break it down for us.
Okay, wake up is the neurological event.
Yeah.
Your eyes physically open. Sleep stops. You are now conscious.
The alarm goes off. Bam. I'm awake.
Right. But do you jump out of bed the very second your eyes open?
Absolutely not. I grab my phone, I check the weather, I doom scroll for 10 minutes. I stare at the ceiling and regret my life choices.
Exactly. And that entire time, you have woken up, but you have not gotten up.
Because get up is the physical act.
Get up is feet on the floor. Standing vertical. Leaving the bedroom. The source used a great example sentence. I woke up at 7, but I didn't get up until 7:30.
That is a very real sentence.
It is. And if you say, I got up at 7 when you were actually lying in bed looking at Instagram until 7:30, a native speaker will get the wrong mental image. They'll think you were down in the kitchen making coffee at 7 o'clock.
So it's all about precision.
It is. And English is totally full of these. Take water, for example. The epic battle between the shower and the bath.
Oh, this one is interesting because I usually just use them interchangeably. Like, I'm going to take a bath or I'm going to take a shower.
And if you do that in English, you might really confuse people. Because functionally, they're opposites. A shower is standing up. It's about efficiency. You wash, you rinse, you get out. The source actually notes a British and American split here, too. British speakers tend to say, have a shower, while Americans almost always say, take a shower. But both are fine.
But a bath is different.
A bath is an event. You sit down in a tub, you soak. Maybe there are bubbles, maybe there are candles involved. It takes 20 minutes or more.
So if I tell my boss I'm going to take a quick bath and then head to work, he's going to look at me weird.
He's going to think you're having a full-on spa day right before the morning meeting.
Got it. And then we have the chores. This is where the verbs make and do get incredibly confusing.
This is one of the hardest parts of English collocations. You make your bed.
Which does not mean building it from scratch with wood and nails.
No, it just means tidying the sheets and pillows. It takes 2 minutes. But you do the housework.
And housework covers literally everything else.
Cleaning the floors, washing the dishes, taking out the trash. And the really big one, the source highlighted, you do the shopping.
You do not make the shopping.
Never. You go to the store to buy food or toilet paper. That is doing the shopping.
It's funny because in some languages, you literally do make the shopping.
Exactly. Which is why that thinking in English habit we talked about is so important. It stops that direct translation error from happening.
There was one more nuance that I honestly related to on a spiritual level. The difference between go to bed and go to sleep.
This relates perfectly back to the late night concept mentioned in the source. Going to bed is just the act of getting into the bed. You might read a book, you might scroll on TikTok, you might just stare at the ceiling.
You are simply in the location of the bed.
Yes. But going to sleep is when you actually finally lose consciousness.
The source had that great example. I went to bed at midnight, but I didn't go to sleep until 1 a.m.
Which is a very real distinction for anyone with insomnia or a smartphone addiction.
Absolutely. And I think these tiny nuances are what genuinely make a language feel real. It's not just subject plus verb. It's capturing the actual reality of lying in bed scrolling for an hour.
That's the lifestyle aspect we've been talking about.
But, and this is the big, but trying to get all these little details right can be terrifying. And that leads us to the final pillar of our deep dive today, the psychology of learning.
The emotional side of all this.
The sources were surprisingly emotional about this. They talked a lot about fear.
They did. They openly acknowledged that many learners feel shy, nervous, or even sad when they don't understand something. There is a very genuine fear of looking foolish in front of people.
I think we've all been there. You just freeze up. You think, what if I use the wrong verb? What if I say make the shopping and everyone just laughs at me?
And the reality check from the expert sources is vital here. Everyone makes mistakes.
Yeah.
Even native speakers make mistakes.
That's true. I fumble words in my own language all the time.
Exactly. The source material emphasizes over and over that you don't need to be perfect. You just need to show up.
Show up.
Showing up means doing that shadow practice for 5 minutes,
Mhm.
even if you feel like you sound totally silly.
Yeah.
It means recording the voice note, even if you hate hearing your own voice.
The sources talked a lot about using routine as an anchor.
Yes. If you tie English to things you already do every single day, drinking your coffee, brushing your teeth, waiting for the bus, it stops feeling like homework. It stops being this big, scary task you have to somehow make time for.
It just becomes part of the natural flow. You brush your teeth, you think, I'm brushing my teeth. You check your phone, you see airplane mode.
And suddenly the fear diminishes because it's not a test anymore. It's just your life.
I really love that. So let's recap this daily fluency formula we've uncovered today. Step 1, shadow the sounds. Be an echo. Don't worry about understanding every single word. Just try to get the rhythm.
Step 2, digital immersion. Change your phone settings. Let the social media algorithm teach you English while you scroll.
Step 3, narrate the simple moments. I am making tea. The sky is blue. And use the voice note diary to catch your own mistakes.
And step 4, master those daily nuances. Know the difference between waking up and getting up, between making your bed and doing the shopping.
The sources ended with some really nice encouragement. They said, smile, breathe, and keep going. Be proud of yourself for just listening.
That's the most important part by far. Progress over perfection.
We've covered a lot today, from the gym of shadowing to the lazy hacks of phone settings. But before we let you go, I want to linger on that last point you made about the inner monologue.
The identity shift.
Yeah, because when you combine all these things, shadowing the rhythm, thinking, I need coffee, instead of translating it, narrating your movements, you aren't just learning words on a page, you're inviting the language into your private space.
That's honestly the most profound part of these sources. When you start thinking in English, The English you stops being a performance. It stops being a character you play when you walk into a classroom or a meeting.
It starts to become just you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Language completely shapes how we see the world. If you start describing your feelings, your needs, and your observations in English, you are fundamentally rewiring how you process reality. You aren't just a person who knows English anymore. You become an English speaker.
That is a massive difference, and it's a really cool thought to leave our listeners with.
It is.
So give it a try. Narrate your walk to the kitchen, shadow a podcast while you do the dishes, and realize that every small step is actually a giant leap toward that new identity.
Couldn't have said it better.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. Good luck with your shadowing. Enjoy your English phone settings, and we'll see you on the next one.
Keep learning. Bye.